What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video on the Porsche Boxster from hell. Now, if you watched any of the previous videos, you will know that this Porsche Boxster has put me through quite a lot over the last 12 months, from the suspension issues to fitting the front end and to the biggest problem of all, the engine. But hopefully in today's video, the Porsche Boxster from hell will redeem itself. That's right, it is the Porsche Boxster from hell. And in the last video, we were putting the engine back together and we ran into yet another problem. In the last video, guys, we broke the pipe off this vacuum reservoir here. It looks a little bit like this pipe. I tried to pull it off because it's cold in the unit and this is 20 odd years old. It just broke. So it's one of those things that's really annoying, a really cheap part. It happened on a Sunday. We couldn't get it until the following week. So here we have the new reservoir. Now this was less than 23 quid from Porsche, which I'm really pleased about, because if you remember the rear brakes from Porsche, just the mechanism, the handbrake mechanisms were absolutely stupid. It was nearly £200 for them. So I was really pleased that this wasn't too expensive. Now to fit this, it's just 2 screws, but we do have to take the vacuum system off the engine to do that. Just makes it easier. So what we're waiting for, let's get this off and yeah, get it refitted, and then we can build the rest of the engine up. Let's get on. So to get the vacuum system off, it's quite simple. It's 4 bolts and then it just simply slides out. Not too difficult to get out when you haven't got the inlets on. And to change the reservoir itself, again, like I said before, this is just 2 Phillips screws that just undo, and then we screw the new unit on. So to refit the vacuum system, straightforward, we just reverse the process. But I'm going to make sure that I put 2 new gaskets on here, just to be double certain that we don't get any air leaks. So there we are, guys, we've got the air injection system back on the way it should be, and now what we can do is start putting the inlets back on, get the injector rails in, get the wiring loom in, and spin this engine over and hopefully get it started. What are we waiting for? Let's get on. So we start with the driver's side inlet. This is really straightforward to put on. 6 bolts and it's on. Once that's in place, we then add the oil separator unit, which sits just to the left of the driver's side inlet. Again, really straightforward, only 2 bolts to fit. We then move over to the passenger side, refit the power steering reservoir, and refit the passenger side inlet. Again, really straightforward, fit straight on, no problem whatsoever. With the passenger side inlet fitted, I then try and refit the Venturi pipe and I actually realise I've made an error. Okay, so we've got a bit of an issue. I couldn't work out where these breathers went, and it's been nearly 12 months since I took this apart. And I've realised that I've actually put the inlets on the wrong side. But it doesn't matter, because this plate comes off here and will go on this inlet here, so the breather will fit on correctly. These over really simply. Takes 5 minutes and then it's done. So with the Venturi pipe in the correct position, we then refit the resonance tube and the intermediate tube that connects the 2 inlets together. Again, these are really simple to fit and they're just held in with these Jubilee clips. Really straightforward, actually quite easy to work on. We then move on to fit the injector rails and fuel lines. So with the fuel rails all back in, we then rerun the wiring ready to plug the injectors and the coil packs back in. So with the top end of the engine rebuilt, all we need to do now is get the auxiliary belt back on, and then we can spin the engine over for the first time. So yeah, we need to get this AUG belt on. Now when the engine came with the car, obviously we know it's not the original engine, and this engine had an air conditioning pump on it. Now the car doesn't have air conditioning, so I'm going to fit a non-air conditioning AUG belt. I've took the pump off. There's no point having it on the engine because we're never going to use it. So yeah, let's get on and get this belt fitted. So we start by refitting the power steering pulley, and then we feed the belt around the other auxiliaries and onto the adjusters. And I'm not going to lie, this is a little bit more difficult than I thought it was going to be.
And tears falling like rain. Can we find hope for tomorrow? Can we find...
So there we are, the AUG belt is on. Now I had difficulty getting it on the bottom pulleys, getting it on the top pulleys, and then getting this adjuster locked off. I don't know whether or not I'm missing something, but I couldn't get it locked off. But I had to use a screwdriver in the end, blunt, just to feed it over this pulley, and it got the belt on. So we're all good there. Now we need to get some oil in it before we try and spin the engine over. So there we are, we've reached a really big milestone with the Porsche Boxster. We're at a point where we can get oil in the engine. Then we can crank it over without any spark plugs in or the core packs in, just so we can get the oil pressure up, get the oil around the engine. Then we can connect it all up, and fingers crossed, she'll fire up for the first time. And I think we're actually going to do it in this video. So what we're waiting for, let's get some oil in this engine. We've got oil in, we've got the oil belt on, and now we're going to spin it over before putting like the spark plugs in, the core packs in, and connecting all the wiring up and making sure that we've got everything ready for it to start. Let's see if any warning lights, loads of warning lights. Stereo's working up. Checks the oil. Well, let's see how we get on. Nothing. Okay guys, so we know what the problem is. I've lost the earth cable that comes off the back of the gearbox and goes to the chassis for the starter motor. So we've improvised and we've got this jump lead connected to the starter motor and earthed out over here. This is why the engine wouldn't turn over. It wasn't the battery, it's not a lazy start motor, it's an earth problem. So now we've got that in place, well, let's turn this over. So there you are guys, as you would expect from an engine that's just been rebuilt and's got uprated parts in it, like the IMS is uprated, it's spun over like really easy, no problems, no rattles, no bangs. So now what we're going to do is get the spark plugs in, the core packs back in, the wiring all connected back up, and then for the first time since 2019, this car hopefully is going to run. Okay, so I want to make sure that this engine runs the best it can. So I'm going to fit brand new spark plugs here. The spark plugs are in, we then refit the core packs. And then move on to the core packs. These are really easy to fit. They kind of push in and then they're held in place with 2 retaining bolts. We then repeat this process for the passenger side. So with the spark plugs and the core packs back in, we then reconnect the wiring loom. There we are guys, final assembly done. Well, almost, we have got a couple of air pipes that need to go on, but they will go on when we put the air box in. So yeah, but we are finally ready to turn this engine over and see if we can't get it started. So you ready, Jay? Jay's ready. Let's see if we can't get this engine started. 12 months in the making. Get in. Wow guys, it's running 12 months of hell and this car is back alive. I can't believe it. If you'd have told me this 6 months ago, I would have been, there's no way that this car is coming back to life because it's just fighting me. But we've done it. There are a few things that we need to do before this car will move under its own steam. We kind of need to put an exhaust on it. There's a few breather pipes that need to go back on when we put the air intake on. We need to reconnect the gearbox gear selector linkage back up. And then I think, well, I think it'll move under its own power. Yeah. But that's it for today's video, guys. Now, if you like what you see, don't forget, smash that subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up. Turn the notifications on so you know when the new videos are dropping. And as always, comment in the comment section below. And thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. What are we waiting for? Let's get on. Let's get this engine full of oil and all lubed up. No, let's not say that.